Welcome to Orange Weekly, presented by Kraus Health. Alongside Mike Curtis, I'm Nate Mink. Coming up, Syracuse football. Off a bye week, heads to Louisville for a Friday night game. We'll hear from Dino Babers on what to expect out of the Louisville offense. And later, Mike Waters joins us to talk a little SU basketball. With the season set to start next week, the program is on pause due to a slight coronavirus cluster. But Mike, we begin with SU football. Friday night tilt at Louisville, 7 o'clock on ESPN. Syracuse has never lost 6 games in a row under Dino Babers, looking to snap a long losing streak. What do you see as the path to victory to get the Orange into the win column again?
Well, Nate, I have three keys to victory for Syracuse this week. One, I think they need to play with the same effort that they gave against Clemson and Boston College. Even though they weren't able to play as well offensively, they still gave the effort needed on defense, and they tried a little bit on offense as well. They kind of got going a little bit too late. They could have made a comeback, but they didn't have as much time. Number two, I think they need to play better on offense and mix it up more with their running game. Sean Tucker got most of the snaps last week or the week before against Boston College, but I think they need to mix it up a little bit and play Cooper Lutz and throw him in there as well. Number three, the defense has been fairly consistent all season, getting stops and takeaways when needed. But I think the offense needs to kind of capitalize on those opportunities that the defense gives them.
Louisville coming into this one at 2-6, Syracuse 1-7. By all indications, Jacoby Morgan is going to make his second start this week. We saw him play okay in that game against Boston College, led a late scoring drive, but in the end, it wasn't enough offense to overcome Boston College and the Eagles defense. Mike, what do you want to see from Morgan this week and maybe in these last closing weeks? How can he get better as more and more gets put on his plate?
For sure. Against Boston College, that was his first big start as Syracuse's quarterback. I thought he looked extremely poised, composed. He was able to scramble when needed. He was able to make that short pass. But what I want to see going forward from Jacobian is his ability to throw the deep pass. He did it a couple times against Boston College. One of them got tipped, and it wound up in an interception. So if he can get it out to Taj Harris in these next couple of weeks, I think it'll be pretty good for Morgan.
I think quarterback play is going to be the difference on Friday night. I really like Malik Cunningham, even though Louisville is down. Perhaps a couple of their more explosive players. We know Javian Hawkins, the talented preseason All-ACC running back, is not going to be playing this week. Tutu Atwell remains questionable, but Cunningham brings that dual threat capability that hurt the Orange a month ago against Liberty. I have Louisville winning this one 31-27. Mike, how do you see this one playing out?
Wow. You mentioned Malik Cunningham. He's a really good dual threat quarterback. He rushed for, I think 197 yards and 2 touchdowns against Virginia last week. So that could give SU some problems. But I have SU winning this one 24-21. I think they find a way to get it done. They're coming off a rested week, and I think they find a way to put things together.
Dino Babers is well acquainted with the athletes Louisville has on its roster. Louisville put up 56 in last year's game against the Orange. Let's hear from Coach Babers on what he sees out of the Louisville offense this season. Let's go to Syracuse Soundbites.
They're explosive. They really are. They're so explosive. I mean, for them to have their top tailback down and Tutu, who just runs by everybody, it doesn't matter what the other jerseys are. To have those guys down and still be able to put points up on the board, it's really, really impressive. And you got to take your hats off to Coach Satterfield. My goodness, it's an explosive offense. He's done a nice job with the personnel that he has, and they continue to find a way to score points. And, I'm really impressed with everything they've been able to do for the 2 years that they've been there.
We're joined now by Mike Waters to talk SU hoops. And Mike, Sunday night news dropped that Jim Boeheim tests positive for the coronavirus and one other member in the SU program as well. Is this a precursor for how this college basketball season will unfold?
Oh, I think it definitely is. I mean, Syracuse joined about 30 other men's basketball programs around the country that have had to go on pause or quarantine just within the last month. And in the days since then, that list has continued to grow. Delaware went on it. Ole Miss coach Kermit Davis, just the other night, he's tested positive for the coronavirus. So, yeah, we're going to see this probably all throughout the season. And I think the hope is that you don't see it to the point that's going to cause a complete shutdown or, having the whole basketball schedule maybe have to take a 2 or 3 week break and then pick things back up again. I think the hope is that, sort of like college football, you're going to have games postponed or canceled every weekend, but that you'll be able to kind of keep going along and get them in. And listen, it really doesn't matter in the regular season anyway. I mean, you want to play enough games to make it legit, but the whole goal here for the NCAA is they got to get to the tournament because they cannot go 2 years in a row without playing the NCAA tournament. It just means too much financially to the NCAA and many of its member institutions.
Syracuse scheduled to open the season November 27th at the Carrier Dome. Mike, you mentioned the NCAA tournament. They announced earlier this week they will go to a single site location this year. What will you be looking to see out of the Orange that will be a signal that they will make it among those 68 teams?
I think there's a few indicators. The play of Barama Sidibe. I really believe that Barama could be a key for this team. And I know they have other options at center. You could go with your slightly smaller, but maybe better offensively lineup when Marek Dolezaj moves into the center position. And you got young centers, Jesse Edwards and Frank Anselm behind him. But if you look at the way Barama played in the last 6 to 10 games last season, he was playing lights out. He had 10 or more rebounds in each of the last 6 games last year. That's against ACC competition. And I think it's the first Syracuse player to do it in like 9 or 10 years. Like for instance, Rakeem Christmas, when he was a senior, he never had 6 straight games of 10 or more rebounds. Rakeem Christmas, I mean, he was great as a senior. So, if Barama plays like that, that's a good sign. But I think also we can't ignore the fact you got Alan Griffin, the Illinois transfer. The one loss off of last year's team is Elijah Hughes, and Alan Griffin is the guy who seems primed to step in at the small forward position and really give Syracuse the kind of scoring, the intensity, the rebounding you need from that small forward. I think Alan Griffin, when you look at some of the small forwards Syracuse has had recently, on offense, they're basically guards. You're talking like Malachi Richardson, Andrew White, Michael Benajay, and even last year, Elijah Hughes. And on defense, they had to go back and play the back line and be the small forward back there. And I think Alan Griffin is going to be the best rebounder of any of those guys I've mentioned. I really think he can help them out back there. So I see him helping out on defense and rebounding as well as offense.
We'll be hearing a lot more from Mike as the Syracuse basketball season eventually gets underway. That's it for this week's edition of Orange Weekly. For Mike Waters and Mike Curtis, I'm Nate Mink. We'll see you next time.